Welcome in, everybody, to the show that will not end. This is Fourth and a Mile, presented by Planet Adam. I am your host, the Pharaoh of Planet Adam, or God King, if you will. I am Adam Fernandez, and we've got a lot to talk about in the world of all things sports. First, though, people, go to bandcamp.com. Check out A Bloody Chasm. They have a list of songs on there, all from their demo. The song that plays during the intro here is I Wanna Rock and Roll by A Bloody Chasm. Go check them out. You're gonna love them, I promise you. If you're into rock and roll, if you're into, I believe Jocelyn called it spooky metal or something like that, then you will definitely love this band. They are awesome. They're good friends of mine. So go check them out, and you guys will love their music. So on to other news, though, before we get started with sports. John David, again, I am still waiting for you to get back to me to tell me how you want to pick up your tickets for the Michael Graves Show on March 23rd at Tonic Bar. If you guys didn't win the drawing, you can still go on out there to Tonic Bar. I talked to Colby personally the other night. They still have plenty of tickets available. Just go on in there, tell them you want a ticket, you want 2 tickets. They're $10 per ticket. If you wait until the day of the show, they'll be $17 for you individually. That's $7 you could have spent on alcohol. Or if you're buying 2 for you and a date, then that's $14 you could have spent on alcohol that you're flushing down the window. So go out to the bar and get them as early as possible. Plain and simple. But John David, get back to me and let me know where and when and how you want to pick up your tickets. So I can take them on over to you, or you can come on over here and pick them up. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. So just as long as you come and pick them up. So, or as long as you get them, I mean. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into some sports now. We're going to start off with college basketball because there was a big decision that was made today involving the Louisville Cardinals. They've already been in some trouble, and we'll get into that here in just a second. But back from the 2011 to 2012 season through the 2014-2015 season, the Louisville Cardinals had a slew of players who were ineligible to play playing for them. Academically ineligible, but they were still playing for Rick Pitino and the Cardinals. The NCAA Infractions Appeals Committee, because they had already set down a ruling back, I believe, in November, if I'm correct. I might be a little off there. Stating that they were going to go ahead and levy penalties on the university, but the university went ahead and filed an appeal. So the Infractions Appeals Committee today ruled that they still have to vacate all wins from that time, from 2011 until the end of the 2015 season, or 2014-2015 season. They have to vacate all those wins, including the 2013 national championship win against Michigan. So they are no longer considered to be national champions. And I know that the players from that team are disagreeing with that. One of them tweeted that he has a ring that would say otherwise. They're all saying that, you know what, these wins, they did happen. We did beat these teams. So they can take them away all they want to, but history will show that they still happened, although history won't show it because it is being erased. But you can understand their displeasure at the same time. I don't know who all was involved with all this, and so, I mean, because there's a lot of other stuff that happened as well. They also have to pay all the money back that they earned from being in the tournament between those years. And the university is approximating it to be about $600,000. That is a lot of money. A lot of money. Included in these allegations, it's not just the ineligible players. Andre McGee, who was part of the coaching staff, allegedly paid to have a group of strippers come over to the dorm for parties with the basketball team. Reportedly, these parties included sex acts. So these players were getting they were getting a little pooty poo for nothing. They weren't paying a dime, and they were, so I mean the coach was paying. In fact, he paid I believe it was $10,000. But outside of that, they weren't getting any pay. Or I mean the players weren't paying. So Rick Pitino and the AD were fired actually back in October due to their involvement with an FBI investigation into bribery in NCAA basketball. And there's a lot of schools right now that are under investigation for that, to include Kentucky, Louisville's arch rival. But that had absolutely nothing to do with these sanctions today. They originally, when they set down the penalty, they decided to go ahead and suspend Rick Pitino for 5 games. But instead of suspending him, Louisville went ahead and fired him and the athletic director. But after hearing the news today, the new president of the University of Louisville issued out a letter, and I'm going to read it basically in 2 parts because it's such a long letter that it made it damn near impossible for me to read it on this screen for you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the letter, and I'm going to do it, like I said, in 2 parts here. Alright. Today, the NCAA Infractions Appeals Committee upheld earlier penalties imposed on the University of Louisville, including vacation to victories from 2011 to 2015. That includes the 2013 National Championship and the 2012 Final Four appearance. I cannot say this strongly enough. We believe the NCAA is simply wrong. We disagree with the NCAA ruling for reasons we clearly stated in our appeal, and we made a strong case based on NCAA precedent that supported our argument. From day one, the university has admitted to the actions of the former operations director and any others involved under previous leadership. Wait, did I mess that up for you guys? And any others involved under previous leadership were offensive and inexcusable. That is why we apologized immediately, cooperated fully with the NCAA, self-imposed penalties that were appropriate to the offenses, and made significant changes to ensure incidents like this never happen again. Under the NCAA's own rules, the cooperation should have been a factor in the severity of the punishment. Instead, it was ignored. Like you, I believe the university needed to appeal the decision as strongly as possible. Let me pull up the other one just to be ready. As strongly as possible. We brought in some of the best legal minds in the country, including the nation's top litigator, who helped develop and argue our case. This effort was costly both financially and in the time commitment. We felt and still feel that the young men who earned those victories and the thousands of fans who supported them deserved our best effort. The pain cost for you, our fans. Let me try to finish that part real fast. I'm trying to see where it is here. Who supported them deserved our best effort. The pain caused by our fans and the players who were not involved is perhaps the most regretful result of this decision. Okay, that's where we are. So let me go ahead and transfer over here to the next path. This dark cloud has hung over our heads for more than 2 years, and it has had a negative impact on our athletic program, our fans, and the entire university family. While we disagree with the NCAA's decision, it is time for the university to close this chapter and move forward with a stronger commitment to excellence on and off the court. First and foremost, we are a university. However painful the situation gives us the opportunity to turn the corner. We will move forward in an open, transparent, and collaborative way. We will need your help to do so. The NCAA's ruling cannot change the accomplishments of the of the excitement. Generated by our Cardinals basketball team. It cannot change the feeling many of us shared as we experienced the victories those teams earned, and it cannot change the love so many of us have for this great university. I hope you will join me in continuing to remember those teams and their contributions. And I hope you will join me as the university looks to brighter days in athletics and as an academic institution. So, let me come back to good-looking me here. Okay, so that was a letter from the university president, Greg Postel. I'm assuming I'm saying his name correctly. Postel. Postal. That might actually be the best one I've heard. Here's the fact of the matter. Again, same as last time when Notre Dame football got levied with penalties to include vacating wins during the season in which they went undefeated during the regular season and played in the national championship game. Their argument could very well be the exact same. That the players that were ineligible academically are no different than the players that were academically ineligible for North Carolina, and North Carolina skated free. So they still they could easily make that argument, and on that case, I would say yes, I agree. But I'm glad to see that the NCAA is finally doing something about this. Instead of letting schools like UNC go free, I think they need to revisit that case. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that they would be allowed to, being that they are a national governing body and kind of they have a role to do with the federal government. So I'm not sure if they could actually reinstitute that case or not because of fear of double jeopardy. I'm not sure. I would have to look into that. But at least we know that now they are taking all of these cases seriously. Notre Dame had nothing to do with strippers or, any or getting any pooty poo on the side there. I don't know to what extent any of those actions were, but I think this is a fair penalty for them. They no longer have to be held out of postseason play. They do have a lot of money to pay. A lot of money. And I actually believe that would probably be Greg Postel's biggest concern of everything is the money, not the vacation of the games or the national championship. That could hurt a little bit with recruiting, but I don't think it would hurt as much. Especially considering that people know that they won that game and they are allowed to mention it. However, the $600,000 is money that's going to most assuredly be taken away from scholarships. So that's going to end up hurting the athletics program. Not because all 6,000 of those aren't going to go strictly to the basketball scholarships, I'm sure. So that's going to end up, hey, Adam Ballard is watching. So that's going to end up hurting the entire Louisville athletics program. Jesus, I can't talk tonight. So I think that's really Postel's biggest concern is the $600,000, not so much the vacation of the wins, although I'm sure that plays a little bit of a part in it as well, as it's a matter of pride there for your university. But they are not being sanctioned to stay out of postseason play anymore. They are not being given the death penalty. I think that what he said in that letter is absolutely true. It's time to move on, especially because they still have the FBI investigation going on, which, again, is including several schools, to include themselves, University of Kentucky, regarding bribery in basketball. So there is a lot more to be fearful of than this. So if I'm Louisville, I'm skating right along with everything the NCAA says. Keep my nose clean because you don't want that kind of you don't want that kind of attention coming around when the FBI starts doing stuff. So if I'm Louisville, yes, I'm dropping it there and saying, all right, we're done, and just continuing on. So let's go ahead and move on then to Christian Yelich today. Christian Yelich, the left fielder now of the Milwaukee Brewers, was commenting today about his time in Miami. And he says that the death of Jose Fernandez changed everything. He says, and I quote, "I think everybody figured our window to win was with him." In case you guys don't remember, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission determined that Jose Fernandez was intoxicated and speeding in a boat that ran into a jetty just off of Miami Beach. And that accident killed him and 2 others. To say that was the end, I would probably have to agree with him. I think that is when everything changed. They were a second and third maybe guy in the rotation away from being a team that could really compete in the National League. They had Giancarlo Stanton. They had Marcell Ozuna. They had Christian Yelich. They had D. Gordon. They had JT Realmuto, who we'll get into a little bit here in just a few. So they were a team that was ready to win because they had their ace pitcher. They had Jose Fernandez, who was one of the best pitchers in the game. Granted, he was still young and he had only pitched a couple seasons. He had just come back from Tommy John surgery, and he was still as good as he was before Tommy John surgery. So that was really a team that looked like it could compete. That year, last year, I was before the season started, and granted, I wasn't doing my show, so you guys can't back check me on this or anything like that. But I was saying then that this is going to be a team that stands a chance to compete. They were in and out of contention in 2016 before all this, simply because they didn't have anybody else in their rotation. Now they have Dan Straley, and I don't think Dan Straley is a number 1 starter, period. I think he's at the very best a number 2, but I would actually put him as a number 3. But if they could have just gotten a hold of one more good pitcher, trade some prospects up to Tampa to get Chris Archer or something like that, then this team could have really been something special. But yeah, when Fernandez died in that accident, that really did start getting the ball rolling for yet another rebuild for the Marlins. Because now you have all the offense in the world with Stanton, Ozuna, all those guys I was just naming, but now you have nobody to hold the other team down on their runs at all. Their number 1 pitcher right now is Dan Straley, and like I said, I would probably put him as a number 3 at best. Well, no, I said at best number 2, but most likely number 3. So, I mean, they had Wei Chen. Nah, not that great of a pitcher. They ended up picking up, was it Johnny Cueto or Edison Volquez that they ended up picking up in free agency after that year that pitched for them last year for, like the first half of the season. Either way, neither one of those guys have ever, in my opinion, proven to be a number 1 guy for their team, for wherever they've pitched. So, yeah, really the Marlins were done. And when they sold over to Derek Jeter and company, that really that was the end of it. And so I understand exactly what Jeter's doing. I guess you could technically say that they were still on the verge of becoming a championship caliber team, World Series caliber team, but they didn't really have the prospects to go out there and get a number 1 pitcher and a number 2 pitcher. They were going to need a lot of help. They have A.J. Ramos closing up games, but before you get to the 9th inning, they really didn't have anybody. And so when they had Jose Fernandez, he was the start of something. And so they had something special going on. But when he died, they had nothing. And they saw nothing for him. So what they ended up having to do was, oh, hey, Tess, you showed up. Just found you. Didn't know the 4th of the Mile had a page. Yeah, it's the same page as the Underdog page. Only we're not called Underdog anymore. So yeah, you already knew that part though. So yes, I completely agree with Christian Yelich here that was the start to get the ball rolling. That whole team, that group of young guys, Stanton, Ozuna, Hechavarria as well, D. Gordon, Yelich himself, JT Realmuto, Justin Bour, all those guys had already been through the rebuilding process. They didn't want to go through it again, and that's pretty much what they were going to have to do in order to be successful, because they were going to need to get some pitching in there. And so Yelich said that, quote, "We went through that rebuild. We had all the pieces. We just, and yeah, that's what he was saying right there. And so they just didn't want to do it again. I can't blame them. And that's exactly what the Marlins are doing right now, is rebuilding. So that's why Yelich demanded a trade. That's why Ozuna was perfectly fine with going to St. Louis. That's why Stanton took away his no trade clause and decided, yeah, you know what, I'll go to the Yankees. So yes, the death of Jose Fernandez. You got to remember too, Jose Fernandez was going to be there for a while. When he died, he was only 24. So he had a whole career ahead of him. And had he panned out to be as great as what I think he could have been, because, I mean, he was already pretty damn great. He was one of the top pitchers in the game. But had he panned out to be even greater than that, then the Marlins would have paid him whatever the hell he wanted to. He was a native of Cuba, so you know he wanted to stay there in Miami. So he would have been there. He would have been a lifelong Marlin. And I guess technically he was a lifelong Marlin. But at that point, the Marlins would have been set. They would have had a World Series contender. And there would have been... They would have been raising a couple more banners than the ones from 97 and 2003. So, and they would have done it with the same team. Because unlike the 97 team when Wayne Huizenga traded everybody away, and then in 03 when Jeffrey Loria did the same, so they that was where they were headed. But yeah, unfortunately Fernandez was intoxicated and speeding in a boat, and so that's the kind of stuff that happens, which goes to tell you guys, again, I've said this before, do not go out and drink and drive at all, period. You never know what's going to happen to you guys. Yes, he died in a boat accident, Tess. He was driving the boat. He was intoxicated. If I remember correctly, it was more than alcohol in his system. And so, yeah, when he was out there driving on the boat, he ran into a jetty and destroyed the boat and killed him and 2 other people that were in the boat with him. So, all right, so on to some more baseball news. Just a little bit before we came on air tonight, there was I don't want to say a big 3-team trade, but a 3-team trade. And this is just getting more and more bizarre for Rays fans, if there is even such a thing. And I don't blame them, because the Rays have never really... I mean, they went to the World Series back in 2008, and that was just because they had a lot of talent on that team. However, they really have never been that competitive again. They were never that competitive before. So the fans up there in Tampa Bay, and when you consider that dump of a stadium that they have up there in St. Petersburg, it's hard to get Rays fans in. It's hard to get any fans in there to fill up the stadium. The thing is that right now they're trying to put together a plan to build a stadium in Tampa. So right now they're trying to find the money to do it. They've already got the land and they've already pretty much got the approval. All they need to do is find the money and then present it to the city. And then from there they can get the approval, most likely in a vote of the citizens of Tampa. But because of that, them trying to find the money, they're basically unloading everybody on the team. But they pretty much, like, what I basically mean is that the city is releasing them from their contract with Tropicana Field. Thank God. Yes, and so they've been trading away everybody, pretty much what the Marlins did. So baseball in the state of Florida is going to suck for the next few years. But they traded away now one of their top offensive players from last year, Steven Souza Jr., who hit 30 home runs for them. He's going to Arizona to take over for JD Martinez out in right field. And the Yankees are getting from Arizona third baseman Brandon Drury, who can play either third or short. The Yankees right now are mainly toying with the idea of starting rookies at short and at third, because they didn't re-sign, at second and at third, because they did not sign Todd Frazier. They still have Didi Gregorius, so that's why not at short. But so Brandon Drury can play both of those positions. So he's an established ball player. He's never been, I would say, anything all-star caliber, but he's a good, solid player. So going over there to New York, he either serves as a utility man, or if they find that they can't trust one of those rookies, they'll go ahead and plug him in there at either second base or third base. So, and the Rays get prospects. That's all they got. Prospects. So, Kevin Kiermaier, who I told you guys about yesterday, who was not happy with the direction that the team is going because he wants to compete and he feels that the pieces were there. And I agree, the pieces were there. But I also understand ownership's issue as well, because they want to get this stadium. So they're trying to save as much money as they possibly can. So it would not surprise me at all if you see Kiermaier gone by the deadline. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see, I'm trying to think who else they have there. Wilson Ramos gone, Chris Archer gone. I think they'd probably keep around the really young pitchers like Brett Honeywell, but everybody else, it would not surprise me to see them gone by the trade deadline, because they're trying to save a lot of money in order to get this stadium built. And I don't blame them, because I absolutely fucking hate ball being played in that piece of shit stadium that is Tropicana Field. So I want to see it gone. I want to see that thing demolished. In fact, as soon as they decide to demolish that piece of shit, I will tune in and watch it burn to the ground or implode or whatever they do with it. I don't know. But that's the three-team deal. The Tampa Bay Rays, I think, will be lucky to get 50 wins this year. I'll give them a little more than that. I'll say 55. But outside of that, yeah, the Rays are in total rebuild mode because they want to get a stadium built. So the Yankees are just solidifying their infield, and the Rays are, they're not getting as good a bat as JD Martinez, but they're getting a semi-comparable bat with Steven Souza Jr. So it sucks, though, because Steven Souza Jr. was one of the real bright spots for the Rays last year. So, all right, so what I'm going to go ahead and do now is, and typically every Tuesday I do a top 5, but I'm going to go ahead and over the next 2 weeks, starting from tonight, there's going to be 9 episodes. So I'm doing this idea that if I were a GM or given the job of a GM as an expansion baseball team in Major League Baseball, who would be, this is my thought process, who would be my top 5 guys to fill every position. So we're going to go around and do, and I'll probably actually need a couple more days, because I'll probably, or just one more day, so I'd probably need 10 days. Or I could even do 11 if I wanted to throw DH out there, right? That'd be cool too. So I might do that. Anyways, so we're going to start with catchers tonight. My top 5 catchers and why they are my top 5 catchers. Simply because I think the catcher is the most important position on the field. Also because it's just easier to keep track of where I am. So if I were a GM on an expansion franchise, my thought is I want to build a team not that's going to win this year, that's going to win 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line. I want to get guys that are young and can compete, for a long time, because I want to build a dynasty. I'm not looking to win right now and then be done. I'm looking long term. So these are the 5 guys that I have decided to go ahead and go along with. So number 5, let me pull up here to the top. Where am I? There Number 5. The number 5 catcher I would say would be Blake Swihart from the Boston Red Sox. He's kind of a risk because he doesn't have a whole lot of time under his belt. Last year he hit 270, 5 home runs, 36 RBI. Or no, I take that back. That's his career numbers. I'm sorry, his career numbers. But he doesn't have a whole lot of at-bats under his career belt. But what I have seen of him looks like he could possibly be really good offensive player. He's a real solid defensive catcher. So I would not mind having Blake Swihart if I can't get a hold of either of these other 4. So then that brings up who number 4 would be. And, of course, I've got to include a Cardinal in there, right? But it's not Yadier Molina. It is Carson Kelly, the backup for the Cardinals this year. And he's probably going to most likely start several games this year. He is the heir apparent to Yadier. Yadier says that he's going to finish off his contract and then retire. And that's about 2 years from now. Carson last year only hit 174, didn't have any home runs, and had 6 RBI. Because he was mainly just called off the bench to be a pinch hitter, and that was even in the very later half of the season. So this year you're going to see a lot more of him, and I think we're going to see a lot of him to really feel if that's going to be a catcher of the future, and again, if that's going to be a catcher that I want on my squad to lead the team going forward. So I really have faith in him, so like I said, we're going to see. So next we have, this guy is established, and I actually brought his name up earlier. From the Marlins, JT Realmuto. Last year he hit 278, 17 home runs, 65 RBI. He may be the elder statesman of this group, but he's still young enough to where he's got probably a good 10 years left in him, possibly. And he's already established himself to be a pretty damn good offensive catcher. He's a really good defensive catcher. Calls a good game. I would not have a problem with him being my starter at all. In fact, there were several teams when the Marlins were doing their fire sale that were after him. So there's still a lot of teams looking for him to or looking to possibly make a deal for him. So I don't blame them. I think Realmuto is a really good young catcher. But speaking of really good young catchers, my number 2 catcher that I would start a franchise with would be this guy, Gary Sanchez, the great Sanchino. Last year, he actually had a injury-shortened year, and it was shortened in the beginning of the year. It was a layover from an injury during, I believe, spring training. But last year, he hit 278, same as Realmuto. but he had 33 home runs, 90 RBI. He is a real offensive force as a catcher. He makes up basically what might be the greatest trio maybe of home run hitters to possibly ever play the game on one team. With himself, Aaron Judge, and Giancarlo Stanton. You're talking about those guys, the three of them together should be way over 100 home runs just between the three of them. So, and then let's not even include Dieter Gregorius as well. So he is part of why I think the Yankees will win the AL East. So yeah, he is definitely the only reason he's not number one is because of his injury, and so I would have some injury concerns about him. But also, I think that number one is also probably a better defensive catcher, possibly the best defensive catcher right now outside of Yadier Molina, and that is Yadier's arch rival, Wilson Contreras, is number one on the list. If you guys remember, he had that tweeting war with Yadier a couple weeks back, and so I decided to go ahead and lambaste him on air, talking about his failures to try to get into the pants of a porn star. But Wilson Contreras is a legitimate catcher. He's legitimately great catcher. He's still very, very young, and so that's why I would not put him right now up there at the level of, say, Yadier Molina or Buster Posey or Salvador Perez. But those guys aren't going to be on this list because, like I said, I'm looking to the future, not right now. So if I'm looking to the future, Wilson Contreras would be my number one. He's as good as they come defensively outside of Yadier Molina, and even then he might have overtaken Yadier Molina, who's getting up in his years. I believe Molina is maybe a year or two younger than I am, so he's getting up in his years. So Wilson Contreras is 24, 25, something like that. So he's got a long time to go, and last year he went 276 with 21 homers, 74 ribbies. I honestly believe that he's going to be one of the very best catchers to lace up that you will ever see in the history of the game when all is said and done. He still won't be number one because that is going to be Yadier. Yadier is the best of all time. I think he's going to continue to be the best of all time. But Wilson Contreras will be up there. And so that's why Contreras is the number one catcher that I would start a franchise with if I were the GM of an expansion franchise. So, do we have any questions at all on that? Any comments, concerns, complaints, anything at all? If you're watching it on Facebook, you can go ahead and comment me right now. If you're watching this on YouTube, then just leave your comments, questions, concerns in the comment section, and I will get back to you either via comment as well or on tomorrow night's video. So, alright guys, if there is nothing else going on, if there's nothing else happening, and I don't see that there is, I hope all of you guys have a really good night. I love you all. Thank you guys for joining in. Everyone who's watching this on YouTube, I appreciate you guys giving me a chance. Again, I'm just a fan. I am not a professional analyst. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a former Major League Baseball player, not a former college football player. All I am is a huge fan of those sports. So I appreciate you guys giving me the chance. So, all right, guys. So everything else, if nothing else is happening, then I hope you guys have a great night. I love you all. Besos.